Hey everyone, welcome to Ultralife Today. Do you ever feel like you're getting derailed when you're thinking about getting involved in a health program for you? And it's like, where do I start? And some people spend weeks trying to figure it out and then they never get started. Well, today we've got a really cool guest on Ultralife Today. It's a friend. We kind of consider him a family member. He's a clinical nutritionist. He was the guy that was basically the gun hand for Doug Kaufman on the Know the Cause show for 18 years, did everything there, co-host, and he's also the guy that does the Super Health radio show right here in Oklahoma City for 20 years now. Congratulations, Kyle Drew. And then, of course,
Adam Payne over here.
Right over there. And I'm Josh Bellew.
Hey, Josh.
What's up, brother?
Hey, brother.
So anyway, 7 priorities of your, make it personal, get healthy plan.
Yeah, 7 priorities of your get healthy plan. This is one of those things that we used to talk about when I do nutrition counseling. It's like, let's prioritize. You can't do everything, but let's stick with the big things. The very first one, and this is going to be a broken record for me, Josh. We're going to do lots of shows, I'm sure. And every time we do a list, this is going to be number one for me.
If it's a good broken record, I'm there.
Ooh.
This is it. Consistency is the first goal that you're after.
Ooh.
I don't think that anything else should come first. It's not, I want to lose weight. I want to have energy. I think that consistency and learning how to be consistent is the very first thing. You know, I think that consistency is almost like a superpower for human beings.
I completely agree. And like myself, I know I can start something,
yes,
right? And I can do that one gung-ho thing. I'm going to go do it. And in fact, the whole most of the health industry, like the gym industry, is based upon making all of their money in December and January.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's all of these people like, I'm going to get into a health plan. I'm going to do exercise. And then they never show up.
I know.
So Aesop's fable, tortoise and hare. That's the way I look at that as a picture. It's like the tortoise ends up winning the race because the rabbit keeps getting derailed.
I think
the rabbit's not consistent, huh?
Exactly.
Well, one of my favorite sayings is that people overestimate what they can accomplish in a month, and they underestimate what they can accomplish in a year.
Wow.
If we can just be consistent, I don't care what you do for a month. I don't care what you do for 2 weeks. I don't care that you started strong. What I want to see is consistency, and that means that you start slow, you start in manageable steps, and then you can win the day. So the first part...
It's so important. There's a consistency about consistency, and it's not like doing it twice. It's not even maybe doing it 3 times. I think what's the magic number, Kyle?
Yeah, they used to say, and this is what I don't agree with anymore.
You don't?
Here's what I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
It takes as long as it takes.
Wow.
You know, I really, there are so many people that say, 2 weeks to build a habit.
That's the number.
But you're setting yourself up for failure when you do that,
If you don't have, after 2 weeks, the habit built in, then you're like, gosh, I guess this doesn't work for me.
Oh, wow.
And so I
makes sense.
just want people to not put a clock on this. It takes as long as it takes. We'll do that an awful lot. The second priority of a get healthy plan, and I've got my notes here.
Yeah.
When it comes to diet, prioritize protein.
Wait.
I think you need to prioritize protein.
This is a broken
Hold
record
on.
too, but it's a good broken record in my book.
I thought we were supposed to prioritize low sugar.
If we can prioritize protein, you guys, especially as we age, the first most satiating macronutrient, remember the macronutrients are protein, carbs, and fats. The most satiating of the 3, Josh, is protein. And if we can prioritize protein, I think we can keep the hunger at bay. I think we can keep the blood sugar more even.
I was going to say, it keeps the sugar cravings down too. It does for me.
It does for me too. And the fact of the matter is, as we get older, one of the biggest challenges we have is to hang on to muscle. Muscle. And if we can emphasize protein, we have better chance of hanging on to that muscle as we grow older. And this is why I always, and I got to tell you, I've done nutrition counseling for a lot of years with a lot of people, and I am just saying something to women.
Wow.
I don't think you're getting enough protein. That is a blanket statement. I know if it doesn't apply to you, it's okay. But when I would talk to women, they would say, yeah, I'm eating quite a bit of protein. Well, let's talk about it. Well, I had one egg today, and that is the entirety of the protein. This such a problem.
So give us a number, Kyle. What's for an average weighing female American? What is the grammage? What should a person take in on a daily?
I think
what's your
that
opinion,
you
Kyle?
need to get between 7/10 and 8/10 of a gram of protein per pound of body weight.
Okay, hold
all right.
on.
Which
So
would be
if you're
100
100 pounds, make sure to get in 70 to 80 grams.
Okay.
Something like that. If you can get that. Now, for those people who are in the gym lifting, a lot of people are young. They're watching this. They've been in CrossFit forever, and this is not new for them. They're getting something closer to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, and that's okay. But make sure that we can get about 7/10 of a gram, 0.7. So if you weigh 100 pounds, to make it simple, 70 to 80 grams of protein. And I got to say, this is going to be hard for a lot of people. And there's a good reason to start having a protein shake or two every day. I like whey protein isolate. There's a million of them out there, but let's make sure that we get that and prioritize protein. I got to say, number 3 is important. Exercise, the priority for exercise is to prioritize strength. Now, an awful lot of people, and by the way, it doesn't mean do it to the exclusion of cardio. I'm saying prioritize strength. Now, a lot of times people will start their Get Healthy plan and they go to the gym. And the first thing they do is treadmill. And that it ends up being all that they do. And I remember I was doing a TV show for a lot of years, Josh. And there was a day when the host, who had been jogging for 40 years, the joints just finally gave out. There was no strength training, none of that. Yeah. Really, really healthy. But I remember that day, he was barely able to get up to the stage. And if you could just see it apart from the cameras, it was really, really hard to watch. He began incorporating strength training, and it changed his whole physique, actually. And he was able to maintain the low body fat. He still did cardio, just not the same way he always had. He began to prioritize strength. And again, when we get older, what happens? Somebody takes a tumble. Yeah. They fall. They break a hip. That is usually the beginning of the last chapter of their life. It was for my dad. It was for my mom.
It's a broken hip kind of deal.
Yeah,
that's horrible.
Kyle, to your point, I saw a TV segment 20-something years ago. It may have been on 60 Minutes. And they were going into nursing facilities, and they were getting them to begin to use small amounts of weights.
Oh, yeah.
And they were measuring bone density. And it was shocking because in 6 weeks of time with these people, some of them chair bound, but being able to stand up and do things with weights and doing, body squats, partial things like that, their bone density went up like by 10, 12, 13% just by putting that load on the muscles.
Gosh, I'm so glad that you said that, because I wasn't even thinking about the bone density part of this. You are exactly right. Strength training is essential for bone density as well. I'm glad that you said that, because break a leg, break a hip, break an ankle, take a tumble. This is a disaster as we get older. And I think that that's why we need to prioritize strength. Jimmy, I don't know how much time that we have for this segment. There's nothing on the clock, but we can keep going. Started. Okay, so it's okay. We'll keep going. You tell us when to cut this off and we'll go. The next one, I feel like we need to make it real clear that we need to prioritize hydration. This is number 4.
A lot of us don't.
We talked about consistency. We talked about prioritizing protein, prioritizing strength. I'm telling you, prioritize hydration. You're right. A lot of us don't. And you know what a lot of people say, Adam? They when they would come to me, they'll say, "Oh yeah, I'm hydrated."
Yeah.
And then I ask them what they drink. It's never water.
Right.
They're never drinking
it's
water.
Tea.
And tea would be an improvement for a lot of people.
Coffee and soft drinks. So they're diuretics. They're taking water out.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
That's
minerals
what
out.
it is.
Yeah.
It's what it is. I believe that you would do well to get used to real water. Maybe put in a few electrolytes. That's fine. Maybe add minerals. That's fine. But you remember, Josh, when we were talking a long time ago about that famous book by Dr. Batman Jolly.
Yep.
Your Body's Many Cries for Water.
Wow.
And this was a physician in India, and he was finding that people with chronic conditions were having their chronic conditions resolved just on the strength of hydration. If you could get them hydrated again. And I think the best way to do it, the easiest way to do it, you guys, start with pure water. Start first with the kind of water. Pure water. You don't want the chlorinated, fluoridated, all of that stuff. Pure as you can get. And then you add a little salt and a little lemon juice.
Hold on, because you're the one that taught me this recipe, and it's become my go-to.
Okay, good. Because I can't remember
You
it.
need to tell people what kind of salts to use. So you want me
Good
to get
point.
some Morton salt, right, Kyle? And you want me to
love that
just
you
dump
said
a bunch
that.
of Morton?
Thank you. I like the pink Himalaya sea salt or the Celtic sea salt. These are mineral rich. Now, they aren't a mineral replacement, but they're mineral rich. They're perfect for hydration. You need a little bit of that. And actually, the lemon juice, there's a little bit of glucose in that, and that actually enhances hydration. Not enough to make your blood sugar go crazy.
Right.
I think maybe during the break, I'll get the water bottle and I'll show people. I have a 36 ounce or 32, whatever it is. Now, me, guys, I drink 4 of those a day. That equals a gallon.
What?
You don't need to do that.
What?
You don't need to do that. But if you can do, I better get that in the segment, Jimmy. Remind me to do that.
Wow.
The 32 ounce bottle. If you can drink 1 or 2 of those a day, particularly if you're not used to drinking water, and you add a little bit of the lemon, add a little bit of the salt, it doesn't matter the proportions, just start drinking water. This will change your life. I promise you'll feel better. I was last night, there's a mutual friend of ours, and she texted me last night and said, I'm in the ER. And my wife and I went, she had passed out, she had tunnel vision, and something must be wrong. They're doing a CAT scan, and they said, oh, no. It's hydration. You're dehydrated. It was as simple as that. She's a young person. My parents would, at the end of their life, they would go to the hospital virtually every week. And every time they got an IV of just fluids,
They felt better.
they came right around.
Yeah.
And so if we can do this, this is a foundational priority.
Don't move to this next bombshell one
got
before
it.
I say this. I tell people, when I used to talk to people and interview them, Kyle, just as a guy that loves health, and I heard how abysmal their water drinking habits were, they're like, how do I do that? Because if I just try to drink water, and I said, here's how you do it. Here's my big tip, people. You know you're going to eat at least once a day. You may eat twice and you may eat 3 times a day. If you're going to do that, what you need to do is include 1 glass of water with a meal. Choose the meal. I don't care what it is. And then every day, just at that meal, don't try to drink a gallon a day like this guy right out of the chute. Every day do that. What you've done is you've inadvertently created a mind-body connection there where you're going to be, and guess what happens when you actually start drinking water? You get thirsty, guys. It's a shocker.
All right, it's time to wrap this one up and come back from the break, and then we'll get going again.
Sounds good.
Our mission is to take nature's most beloved botanicals and enhance them with our liquid protein scaffold technology. This helps it reach your cells faster and better. With exponentially enhanced bioavailability, you'll feel better every day. Ultra Botanica, the feel-good curcumin.
Welcome back to Ultra Life Today, hanging out with Kyle Drew, clinical nutritionist, and we're on the 7 priorities of your Get Healthy plan. We covered consistency as the first, diet, exercise, and then we moved into my favorite, hydration, because it's the cheapest and easiest way, I think, to kind of get healthy, stay healthy. And
That's
Kyle
a good
Drew,
point. Cheapest and easiest. That's a good point, Josh.
and it's available.
So
It's
easy.
everywhere. Right?
What were you going to ask earlier?
So I've always heard that when we hydrate, we're supposed to use alkaline water for the hydration. Can you? I mean, I know it's kind of a little bit off topic here, but since we're talking about hydration, what you're adding a little bit of lemon is acidifying the water a little bit. What's the handoff here to the alkaline water, and is that a myth, or is that something we should look at?
First of all, just so that you know, whenever you squeeze the lemon in, yes, it goes in as an acid, but it metabolizes as alkaline ash. Yep. The minerals themselves, the ash, are alkaline, and so it doesn't have that effect. But let me tell you, I don't buy this alkaline business. Forget it. I do not think this is real. Let's say that it's baking soda, so alkaline. You drink the baking soda and it lands in a beaker,
of
your
acid.
stomach, of acid. And then and you belch. That is the neutralizing of the alkalinity.
Yeah.
There is no alkalinity that then changes your blood alkaline. It is
so
just,
true.
it's such
So
junk.
true.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you,
I
it's
get
junk.
so
You're so
frustrated
true.
with health gurus talking about alkalinizing the blood, and I'm like,
Forget
do
it.
you
You're not gonna
really
do it.
realize that if you throw that off about a nanomole or whatever Adam would say in
true.
his language, it's going to jack your body up.
No, it's
you'll die.
impossible. So
You'll die. But thank you for addressing that.
I'm glad that you asked that. That's a good question because it's still big.
Okay.
like one of those
Here
little
is
kids.
the next priority,
Oh,
number
Go
5.
for it.
This is all of our favorite.
Please know it's time as you do your Get Healthy plan to prioritize inflammation support or anti-inflammation support. Now, you guys, listen.
This is the only one I do okay.
I think
the
you do.
guru sitting
But
over
this
there.
is one of the things that it's interesting. So I have hosted a radio show for the past 22 years called Super Health in Oklahoma City. These guys have been on the show every week for the past 6 or 7 years. All right.
It's true.
One of the things that we talk about that I love, and I want to hear you guys talk about it, is the whole inflammation link to chronic disease. Okay. Now my good
I'm gonna turn
buddy.
it over to you in a
Hang
second.
on a second. My good buddy Doug Kaufman talks about the fungus link,
Right.
Yeah.
and he will talk about
Endlessly.
fungus causing no. Don't say endlessly. You're saying it like that's bad. Nobody knows this stuff.
I'm
but
sorry.
Here's the thing.
You're right.
Use
You're right.
the
You're
words
right.
infinity and Google Plex them when you
Well,
talk
here's
about
the
that.
thing.
I'm sorry. I apologize for that.
But
I really do.
the inflammation,
It's awesome.
chronic inflammation, is associated with around 98% of all chronic diseases. 98%. Now, you say inflammation, and you might be thinking, oh, well, I twisted my ankle and it kind of swelled up a little bit. Yeah, that is localized inflammation. But there's something else called systemic inflammation. You can take a blood test. It's called a CRP test.
Yep.
You can find out what your level of systemic inflammation is. It's caused by all kinds of things. Yes, fungus. Yes, diet, all of the stuff. But here's the point. We have got to take care of chronic, systemic, the kind of inflammation that you don't feel, but is coursing through your body or causing inflammation through your body. I think, Adam, you've talked about this an awful lot. 98% or so of all chronic diseases, and even closer, I think.
So here's the reality. I think most Americans that are above 60 years old are dealing with some level of chronic inflammation in the body.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in today's world, a lot of that is autoimmune.
Yeah,
I don't know don't know what percentage of people are dealing with autoimmune disease, but it's chronic, and a lot of people don't associate autoimmune or inflammation with the oral cavity. Mm-hmm. But any ongoing sensitivity, if anybody has bleeding gums, you have out of control inflammation in your body. And what we've learned is that out of control inflammation will subtract 7 to 10 years off of your lifespan. Just right off the books. And the reason is because it's this linkage between the local inflammation that's happening, let's say, in your mouth or in a joint or in somewhere else in the body. It's that linkage between the local inflammation and then what leaks out of that joint or the mouth and seeps into the whole body, into the systemic. And the linkage is it's to cardiovascular disease, it's to kidney disease, it's to central nervous system disease, but the main linkage is to the cardiovascular system. And what we've learned is that inflammation signal will actually accumulate a subclinical inflammatory response in our cardiovascular system.
Here's what I'm wanting to say real quick, unless you've got a point.
Well, it's just this. I'm begging people to hear what Kyle said that probably went right over your head on the beginning end of this, and that's this. When you're dealing with chronic pain in your body or an autoimmune disorder, guess what? Now you're doing massive damage control. Most individuals walking around, in my opinion, Kyle, these days with the kind of diet, at 25 or 30 years old, we would be horrified if we saw a CRP test and realized that most of the integrative doctors we run with, they want to see that number at a 1.
Yeah.
You can take a 30-year-old healthy young male these days, and they may be at a 3 or a 4, and yet they feel great. So let's get on the front end of this and be preventive about inflammation support,
And this is-
rather than waiting to try to put the fire out.
But the glucose levels, your blood glucose, if you have what is it called, an A1C above a 6, you're essentially that's an inflammation signal to the whole body.
Yeah.
All of these things contribute to an inflammation signal.
Yeah.
And there are ways that, we're not going to cure the RA in your joint. We're not necessarily going to cure the inflammatory signal in your mouth, but there are things that we can do to reduce the systemic inflammation.
And that's why I want to list a couple.
Yep.
I think that the way to begin is with fish oil. I think a good, solid fish oil, and by the way, yes, check with your doctor before you do blah, blah, blah. That is required. But listen to me, fish oil, I think that this is foundational. Next, I like the spices. I like curcumin. Now, if you watch this show, you already know the story. Curcumin on its own does not absorb. It looks like little shards of glass under a microscope. It needs help. And that's what these guys have figured out with their LPS technology. This is the one that I recommend for everybody. It's the only one, the Ultra Cur, and there's different variations of it. But the Ultra Cur is what I recommend. But I think this is the powerhouse, the fish oil along with the curcumin. Now, there's other things that I like too. I like ginger an awful lot. In fact, I told you I'd bring you my water bottle. I've got in here magnesium, fulvic acid. I have ginger in here.
A little pink Himalayan salt in there,
little
too?
salt.
Yeah, okay.
And then we do the sippy all day. But this is something important. I think boswellia is really, really important, or also known as frankincense.
What about curcumin, Kyle?
He already
just
ran
said
through
that.
it.
But
Where
our
have you been?
Yeah, I know.
He went through it.
Ultra Cur really is a solution there. 1 to 2 capsules a day can really do an incredible job of normalizing that systemic inflammatory.
Yeah, and
effect.
for a preventive aspect, 1 capsule a day, I would say. Kyle, for our vegan viewers, where would they go on the fish oil? I think I know where you're going to go on that, but I need fish oil. I'm a vegan. What?
Algae is...
There you go. Marine collagen, baby.
Yeah, there's algae-derived EPA and DHA. It really, really is quite good. Now,
Yep.
I will tell you, it's more expensive than actual fish oil.
is
It takes
pricey.
a whole lot more material to make a little capsule of these essential fatty acids, but it's good stuff.
It is.
And I recommend it. I like Nordic Naturals, but there's a lot of good brands out there. Let's move on to number 6 on the priorities. Prioritize recovery. I think that you have got to prioritize recovery, especially as you're getting older. This means do yourself some good. Now, I think the curcumin is a perfect recovery tool orally. All right.
Right.
I think that the
hydration is also a recovery tool.
You know, one of the things, your medical director, Dr. Brian Frank,
Yep.
he comes on the radio with me, and we talk about how heat really, really does help recovery very, very well. You like to soak in a hot tub with Epsom salts or magnesium chloride. Yep. This is a tremendous way to recover, to speed the healing of the joints, the muscles, the tendons, the tissues. This is important. A good massage is tremendous. I think that there are things that people are doing now where you'll see people doing these stretches at gyms with like a foam roller, and they're rolling out that pain in the hips and the joints and the legs.
That's all the lymphatic massage,
That's
right? Moving
absolutely.
the lymph juices in our body.
Yeah, there's a guy
important.
that we need to get on this show who does a lot of lymphatic massage thing, and he has a whole process. And I'm going to tell you,
Lymph drain is amazing.
Oh, it feels really, really good. But these are the things that I think that we should pay attention to. Recovery, you know, Josh, you and I, when we talked about our younger years of going to the gym, you could go to the gym and then go to Taco Bell afterwards and then stay up all
Hit the
night.
pizza buffet.
And then the next morning you feel just fine. And those days are over once you get over a certain age. Whatever that age is for you, I hope that you never hit it. But for us, I started to feel that way in my mid-30s. I'm 53 now, and baby, I feel it. I feel it whenever I go to the gym. I need to prioritize recovery. That means stress management as well. But I need to transition into number 7 on the list of priorities because they're related. Prioritize sleep, you guys. This is something, Josh, I know we've talked about this. Remember, there was a guy that was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was talking about sleep.
Yeah.
And
what affects it?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my goodness.
A guy from the UK. And it was riveting, but it was also kind of convicting because he was like
depressing for most
people. I know.
People.
It's like you better
really?
get your 8 hours. But this is one of those things that I think that ego, particularly in the West, when we just don't want to say that we're weak or we don't, we don't want to sleep all the time.
I only need 5 hours of sleep, and I'm up and I've made $100,000 before you woke up.
That's kind of the way it is for some people, right? And this is a mistake. We need to bring in things like L-theanine. That's a marvelous Shazandra, ashwagandha,
magnesium
glycinate.
The family of magnesium.
Magnesium glycinate is the stone cold killer to really bring that somnolence, that relaxing, rejuvenating sleep. These things in combination, along with recovery, along with inflammation support, along with hydration, along with prioritizing strength, prioritizing protein, and baby, let's be consistent. A little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. Flawless is not one of your options, by the way. It's okay. You're not going to get it perfect. Flawless isn't one of your options. Consistency is your superpower. These are the 7 priorities of your Get Healthy plan.
I love it.
We'll close these out. I want to touch one more time on recovery and ask you something. I think it's super important, and I've been doing this now for a while, to truly hit the pause button, even if it's only for 5 to 7 minutes during a work day, maybe do it once or twice a day. Sit in my car, do some deep breathing, don't look at my phone, be away from my devices for a little bit. Absolutely. I mean, and this ties into that Rogan podcast. The distractions that ruin, even you need to prepare for sleep. And some of that is staying away from blue screens. Reading, writing, actually picking up a piece of paper and writing with a pencil can get your mind completely ready for a beautiful sleep.
It's so good, Josh.
Just wanted to backtrack on that because this is simple stuff, right? Kyle drew 7 priorities for your Get Healthy plan.
It's a great
and we're going to
foundation.
keep on running with you on some other cool topics. So
I hope so.
Stay tuned to Ultra Life Today. You know what? We don't stay tuned on broadcasts like this.
No.
This is a podcast. I'm
Just
living
keep
in
listening.
living in my radio world. Join us again next time on Ultra Life Today.